Commodore fans, are you ready? It's time for another episode of the Vandy247 podcast on the 440 Sports Network. Keep it locked right here for the best Vanderbilt coverage. Whether it's Clark Lee on the gridiron, Mark Byington and Shea Ralph on the hardwood, or Tim Corbin on the diamond, the Vandy247 crew has you covered. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Also, like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's free and easy to do. Follow the crew on Twitter, Apple Podcast, and Spotify for podcast episodes. Lastly, if you're interested in sponsoring the show, email Chris Lee at chrislee70@gmail.com. And now, pull up a chair. It's time for another episode of the Vandy247 podcast.
Welcome back to another Vandy247 podcast. Vandy247 live on a Wednesday. Luke and I are both in Atlanta. I'm at the Omni. He's at the Hyatt, but I've covered SEC Media Days and Luke coming at us from Atlanta. Hopefully we'll get Chris in here eventually as well. We're going to be talking all things Vanderbilt football. I do want to tell you on the topic of Vanderbilt football, I want to tell you about Joe Bulovas, former Vanderbilt kicker, still involved with the program, goes to every home game and still a big part of the program, loves watching Vanderbilt football. He is sponsored our football coverage this season. Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James. He enjoys providing superior service by putting his clients first. Raymond James's comprehensive financial planning gives their clients a truly integrated and tailored approach to wealth management. At the end of the day, they just enjoy working hard for great people. And what better than working with a former Vanderbilt football player? So if you're interested in getting into the wealth management business, contact Joe Bulovas. Raymond James, life well planned. Log on to raymondjames.com/Bulovas Wealth Management for more information. Luke, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Billy. How are you? How's Joey doing? Have we talked to Joey lately?
Well, Joey's doing good. I saw him Monday. He was running around just like he always does, doing his thing. And we hung out Monday, and I actually stayed with him. So he's been kind enough for that this week. But yeah, he's good, and he ended up leaving after Monday. But yeah, I'm here all week with Georgia's show, and then we've got fall camp coming up here in a little over a week. So we got a lot to get into. But I wanted to start, Luke, with I talked about this with Robbie. We hopped on for a podcast yesterday morning. All the days are running together now, but just your take on Pavia's comments. I mean, at this point, it's not a surprise to us. We, especially the people in Nashville that deal with them a lot more. I think it's just a chance for the national media to get their taste of Diego Pavia. But any thoughts that or comments that stood out from Diego or Clark Lee? Another Martell Height, position switch, maybe not a position switch, but adding offense to his portfolio was a talking point. But any takeaways from what came out of media days on Monday?
Yeah, I think from the Diego standpoint, I thought he handled it really well. I think he had a good balance of being Diego and also being professional about it. I love the fact he showed up in his tuxedo. That was great. Diego is such a confident kid, and he's genuine. I think a lot of the national media and so forth roll their eyes at him because, they think, well, yeah, he beat Alabama and it was a huge win and Vanderbilt had a winning season. But to talk about Vanderbilt in the same conversation of playing in the national playoffs, I think people roll their eyes up. But I don't think Diego's rolling his eyes, and I don't think our team is. There's only 3 games on this schedule that I feel like the other team will have to play poorly for us that I have a chance, and that would be Texas, LSU, and Alabama. I think those 3 games will be our toughest ones. So if you happen to win all the rest of them, then Diego's going to look like a soothsayer. And as far as Clark talking about the Martell Height and really kind of putting it out there that he's going to play a lot at receiver, that doesn't surprise me. I will say this. I think what he's trying to do is figure out the best way to take some of the pressure off of Pavia and Eli having to connect so much. So if you get Junior involved heavily, get Martell involved heavily on the offensive side of the ball, I think Bryson Coleman's going to be a real surprise this year. And then one of those other receivers, Richardson or someone like that, step up. Boski Barrett, McVay, any of those guys step up, then you've got a pretty good package at receiver and tight end.
You mentioned Pavia's comments. He really does it, and I like how you said he really does firmly believe what he's saying. And I think it all started in the Alabama week. He said only God knows who's going to win this game, and you saw throughout the season some other comments. He had a comment, after Kentucky or heading into the Kentucky game, with a lot of confidence, and we saw that throughout the season. But I think what a lot of people don't understand that may scoff at those comments or laugh at them is that for things to happen, for an Alabama upset to happen, or a bowl victory to get to your 7th win over Georgia Tech to happen, you have to speak it into existence. I mean, you're not gonna, it's not gonna happen unless you can envision it and you talk about it. And I think that's the biggest difference with Pavia and sort of infusing him into this Vanderbilt football program and the culture that they had before Pavia. They weren't even talking about, and we talked about Clark Lee's statement, but the other players probably, you heard it from Clark, but you had Pavia, the quarterback, the leader, come in here and hold that end of the bargain for him. So I think, Luke, the players, Pavia has helped with the players more so than the coaches or even the fans. Now the Clark Lee, I'm sure there were some people, Vanderbilt fans even that disagree with his comment a few years ago at media days, but they're even closer to that now, and a lot of that's because of Pavia.
It isn't, and it's like this. Before Diego got here, I think a lot of our teams, including the 5-7 team, where we beat Florida and beat Kentucky at the end of the year, and then had the debacle against Tennessee. I think our team, even at that point, even though they got the one win short of bowl eligibility, I think they were still hoping to win. Whereas Diego has infused, along with others, it's not just Diego, there's others. Now when they go on the field, they expect to win. And it's such a difference in hoping and expecting. And that's where we are going into this year. I think they expect to win every time they take the field.
We got Chris Lee back in the fold. Chris, good morning.
Am I the only one not in Atlanta?
I think so.
You are.
Okay.
Okay.
What's going on in your world?
Oh, busyness. Getting ready for football season and watching Jeff Levy speak at media days on the TV in front of me.
Yep. Well, I asked Luke, in some of the comments, at this point, the Diego Pavia comments are almost second nature for us, especially people that cover him. This has just been an opportunity at media days for the national media to get a taste of him. And we saw the crowd around him at one of the stages, the player stages. I mean, that was comparable to Arch Manning's yesterday. Pavia is a rock star down here. And Chris, I don't think there's been a player that has garnered the attention at media days ever. I mean, maybe you've seen it with Cutler, and I know somebody mentioned that on the board, but and you weren't down here, Chris, but have you seen a player with the garnered this much attention?
Well, Arch Manning might say, "Hold my beer."
Yeah.
But
at Vanderbilt specifically.
Yeah, I mean it's been a long time. I think it's the most visible Vanderbilt moment at media days since Robbie Caldwell did his thing in, what was it, 2010?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm all for it. I thought the tuxedo look was terrific. I think Diego Pavia is doing more to promote Vanderbilt football than everybody else put together right now. Luke, is that fair? I don't feel like the school's really done a lot.
No,
for him. It's all been him going on podcasts. I feel like the school's promotional energies are focused elsewhere.
Yeah, no, I think the school's promotional has never been what it should be, in my opinion. A lot of reasons for that, but yeah, no, you're correct. Diego is carrying the banner. What he's done for this university this past year and a half has been invaluable. And it takes that type of personality to take a place like Vanderbilt to where they can get some attention.
Yeah, it's going to be very different when he's gone. I feel like they have hit a spot where they're getting more positive press than they have gotten in a long, long time. And I don't know what happens when that goes away.
Well, I think it's not going to be an individual that picks that up, but I do think Clark and the rest of the coaching staff has learned a lot from Diego, whether they want to admit that or not. And maybe the university and the athletic department has learned a lot from Diego about, hey, you can be a little bit brash, a little bit cocky. You can go out there and let people know, hey, we're in this to try to win it. And hopefully they've learned some lessons from this.
Well, Luke, the thing that I like about him, like that's not necessarily my style, but if you're going to do it, I say not my style. Actually, I like what he's doing. He's doing it without disrespecting anybody.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that I like about it. He gives them that thing that they need to have. And I get that they get a little squeamish when he's in front of a camera because you never know what he's going to say. But at the end of the day, what's the worst thing Diego Pavia has ever said or done since he's been at Vanderbilt? I mean, I can't name any crimes committed
it's just whenever he's cussed.
Yeah. Well, okay, there is that. But I mean, I think that's your worst case outcome so far.
Well, I think the other thing that Diego brings is, now with it helps so much with recruiting. I think we just saw it with Evan Hampton. There's some guys that look at Vanderbilt now in a different light. There's only really one big glaring thing they've still got to take care of, and that's getting more fans to the stadium that wear black and gold. That's the next thing, and hopefully that'll happen a lot this year. But to solve that is probably the next big step for this program.
Is there promotion going on with the football program other than what they are doing, through what Diego's doing? I mean, I know they have sent out some ticket deals and things like that, but I just don't. I mean, is he on any billboards downtown? I know they have billboards for athletics. I just feel like the space is being used on other teams and people.
I have seen the one that, where the Broadway West End split is.
Yeah.
I've seen some stuff up there. I don't know how long ago, Ben. It's been this summer, though.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, one of the quotes that stood out to me yesterday was, and we knew he was hurt after the Kentucky game, but he ended up telling Joey actually that Deion Walker was the one that landed on him, and ever since that moment, he wasn't the same. And look, we knew that, but he did say that being in the training room more is something he's going to look at throughout the season, and even in the off season, he's going to. He basically admitted he didn't take care of his body as well as maybe he could have last season. And throughout the offseason, guys, it's about Pavia. It's about protecting him. It's about making sure the offense is a well-oiled machine under him. You saw that with the offensive line. They didn't go out and pay for a big-time receiver because when you have Pavia, number one, maybe the receivers aren't as inclined to come here because of the offense, but that gave you the money and the opportunity to go get an offensive lineman and multiple offensive linemen out of the portal. But guys, that keeping him healthy, and it was interesting his comments. He'll probably be in the training room more. That might be hard for him, but he's going to be in the training room a little bit more.
I was watching the All-Star game last night, and I cannot remember. No, it was Aaron Judge. It was Aaron Boone, the manager of the Yankees, who was the manager of the AL All-Star team last night, was asked about Aaron Judge and what did he bring to the Yankees. Some generic question along that line other than what we see. And he said, well, first of all, he's the best person in our locker room, more or less. And then he said he has spent a lot of time figuring out, like, how do I pace myself and how do I sustain this and those kind of things. In other words, how do I spend a lot of time on maintenance to where I can do what I think it was him. It could have been Ohtani because there was a conversation, I think, with Dave Roberts about Ohtani. I could be confusing those two, but I think it was Boone and I think it was Aaron Judge. And it went on for several minutes about having a strategy there for managing that. I would presume that Vanderbilt is going to do something similarly with Diego Pavia, because at this point you have to. I mean, if he gets hurt, whatever expectations anybody has for best case scenarios for this season, I mean, it is a very different conversation at that point.
Yeah, and I think that's true for a lot of teams with their number one quarterbacks. If their number one quarterbacks go down, they're in trouble, period. So much more with Vanderbilt because of Diego's all that he brings to the table. But, one of the things now we have to admit, Diego can be his own worst enemy at times. There were times last year when he took hits he didn't need to take, when he was trying to get that extra yard, or when he's rolling out and there's nobody open, instead of just throwing it away, he'll duck his head and try to run over somebody for 1 yard or something. He's got to be more selective in that area. And I'm hoping with the improvement of the offensive line and more receivers being open, that he won't have to keep. What was it last year? 192 carries. That's crazy.
He was third most in the SEC, Luke, and I think that's where people have had the skill positions debate about where they need to make their investment. I think the fact that he had to do that so much because they didn't have better options. Now, Eli Stowers is one, and certainly he's going to get a lot of attention. But I think that's still a concern for me going into the season is he was their best option to carry the ball. And look where that wore him down in the end.
Right, and that can't be the case this year. He cannot be the first option.
Clark on the main podium also said, I thought that was interesting. He said, when he is himself, it gives everyone in that locker room license to be themselves. There's one Diego Pavia, but we are a better team when every individual on this team brings their unique personality, creative energy, and allows it to amplify in performance. I think Diego has paved the way for that. So, yes, don't take the hits, maybe running out of bounds, but a lot of what he does, helps the rest of the guys. It might allow Cedric Alexander. You saw the block he laid at Kentucky. And MK Young will be a part of, could be a part of helping Pavia this year as well, take some of those carries off. But I thought that quote was interesting. And there was one other quote. Really the last 3-4 minutes, it might have even been 5 minutes of Clark Lee at the podium was really good stuff. That was as transparent and honest as I've seen him up at the podium in a public setting like that. And he talked about ETSU, losing ETSU in year one. And really from that moment, how non-linear it's been. He talks about progress is seldom linear. It hasn't. But he also said it maybe it was all meant to be. Maybe they needed all that to happen. But guys, that was I'm sure y'all have seen it. But somebody had texted me. He's like, "Hey, you got to watch the last 4 or 5 minutes of Clark's presser." He got emotional. He's an emotional guy, but you can tell how much this means to him.
Yeah, when Clark and I talked actually before, I knew he had the job, but it wasn't public. And he asked me about he said, let's talk about some pitfalls and this and that. And I said, well, Clark, you're going to be surprised at how far the program is down. I said, I know you understand that it was tough under Bobby Johnson when you were here and all that. And then you saw the uptick with James Franklin. But you're going to be really surprised how far the program has dipped. And he told me after, well, it wasn't after East Tennessee. I'm not sure when it was, but he said, man, you were right about that.
Yeah, and he admitted in a couple other radio interviews, too, that he didn't know. He didn't realize it had looked the way it looked and what he was fully ready. He can't ever be ready for a job like that at that point, at Vanderbilt. But guys, y'all ready for the mailbag? We do have, I think, 4 to 5 questions or so.
Sure.
So we will get to some of those and wrap this up. Mailbag is brought to you by Sutherland & Belk, family-owned injury law firm, sponsoring the chat room as well. If you got questions in there, if you or a loved one has been hurt or in an accident, give Taylor or Russell a call at 615-846-6200 to learn about your rights and whether they can help. Guest line with Chris Lee and Luke Wyatt, brought to you by John Levin, good friend of the show, Bubble Bond Dickinson. Thanks to student athletes at Vandy for their dedication, effort, and hard work. Yeaman Packaging Systems also brings us the guest line leaders in end-of-line packaging automation. All right. Anchor down 2401. Predict the first touchdown of this football season. Who's scoring and how? I'll say a Pavia rushing touchdown. Really going on a limb there.
Let's just say Junior runs a kickoff back.
No, I think if the goal is to try to get Diego Pavia fewer touches, the chance that it's a Pavia rushing touchdown against Charleston Southern probably go down. I'll give it to Cedric Alexander with a whatever yard run.
That's fair. Okay, bring back Joe Fisher with a good question here. Who has the biggest breakout year in football? Biggest breakout year. I think there's a lot of candidates. Like I think MK Young is a guy that I don't even know if this would be his breakout year, but the way Pavia talks about him, and Pavia does this with a lot of players. He said in an interview he thinks he's got the best running back, best receiver, best tight end, best O-line. But MK Young, I think, is poised to have a really good season. Bryson Coleman's another guy. Yeah, I'll go with MK Young. I think he'll have a really good breakout per se season.
Well, you had Bryson Coleman. You took mine. I think the tight end position, I think you're going to see Cole Spence catch more footballs this year. I think Coleman, just again, to take the spotlight off of Eli so he can run free and make more catches without getting so much attention.
I think whoever wide receiver 2 is, probably because they need someone to step up there. That would be an obvious place to start. I think, maybe a Seabrooks or Wataha up front, potentially on the defensive line. Martell Height may have already broken out, but I wonder.
Can he break out on offense?
Well, no, I don't know if that's it. I'm just thinking that having more depth at corner might help him be better a little bit. So those are some names. Nobody's obvious to me, though.
Yeah, and the good thing is you had guys break out last year. You had a good bit of guys break out last year. Fontenette, a couple other defensive players here and there. But, yeah, I think, you are to a point where, you may not need multiple breakout players. Let's see here. Vandy fan 19.
Guy,
go ahead.
One defensive guy to watch who was really coming on when he got hurt was Zaylen Wood. I look for him to have a really good year.
He was terrific when he played. Unfortunately, he just didn't play a whole lot.
Yep.
I'll say this too. Phil Steele is really high. He does player rankings. He's really high on Trey Richardson, the transfer.
That's a good one.
The JUCO. He's not big, and he's not going to go up and make many contested catches. But I can see him on some end arounds, and just burn a guy, and maybe more so in some of the smaller games. But like Joseph McVay had that huge touchdown against Missouri. Forget about him. Tristan Brown. There are options. They may not be proven options at receiver, but there are options. There are more options, and there's speed. There's deceptive speed in that room that I think people may not realize initially this season.
That's a really good call. I guess you could say he broke out another level because his numbers were really good, but I think that's a guy that could pop up and be a huge part of their offense because that filled a big need that they had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, offensive line-wise, it's hard to say one of them is going to be a breakout, but Jordan White, you won't notice him because I think he's going to be really good. The transfer from Liberty. Let's see here. Vandy fan, got a baseball question. Vandy fan 1992, seeing so many SEC teams' baseball classes get rated by the draft, do you think this will be the norm moving forward? Follow-up, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being discouraged and 10 being excited, where do each of you feel about Vandy's baseball offseason to this point and why? I'm going to readjust where I'm sitting right now. I got to charge my laptop, but Chris, I'll toss that one over to you.
Yeah, I think one thing that I noticed, because I'm following everybody in the SEC, a lot of teams' high-level commitments got rated. Like even some of the guys that LSU's gotten through the draft the last few years didn't get through. No, they got a whole host of the second tier, but I think it feels to me like maybe the tightening around NIL has potentially affected that. So I would think that, I don't know, 1 year is a hard sample from which to make a conclusion as everybody's adjusting, but maybe. And the other thing is too, the player pool is going to look much different. You still have a lot of transfers in the system, and so that is where schools are looking to plug holes first because they're more finished products. So I think maybe when you get fewer transfers, if there's ever a day where the portal is not what it is now, I think you will see a refocus on high school kids, probably the way people used to build it. So to me, that's a to be determined. Luke, I've got an optimism level at about an 8 right now. I think they've got a really good roster. I think it's better than people know. Now, I think I'm considering right now that everybody that got drafted is gone. If you add those guys back, you add back a layer of optimism. Even somebody like a Levi Huseman, who doesn't get talked about a lot, but is a really good pitcher, adds a little bit to your roster next year. Getting Aiden Stillman through the draft was huge. I think there weren't 10 high school kids across the country rated more highly than he was that got through the draft for anybody, not just the SEC. So that's a big one. I think they will add another bat, maybe a couple of bats in the portal. I think there'll be impact bats. We'll see. Nothing's done until it's done. But I still think it's a good roster. I think the thing that people are not thinking about enough, because everybody's focus was on power a year ago. Well, the thing I said, like, there are things about this team that you are missing. They were elite defensively a year ago. I mean, Vastine, Austin, and even Nelson at first. I think Nelson is the best defensive first baseman I've ever seen at Vanderbilt. I don't think Vastine was the best shortstop that they've ever had. I think that's still, in terms of defense, that's probably was still the
Watson.
Kaiser. No, Kaiser was the best shortstop they've ever had. But Vastine was elite. Like, he was as good as anybody had. And Austin wasn't Enrique Bradfield, but man, he was a lot closer than I thought he would have been. Bradfield's the best center fielder they ever had. He was elite. So I think there's some things that, with everybody focused on the hitting, there will be a loss there on defense that's got to be made up. And I don't think it will be completely, because those guys were all elite. I think you just maybe have to hope to be really good at those spots instead of where they were. But will they will probably get it back in hitting? Yeah, they probably will. But that's going to be a place, next year there's going to be a game or two where they make an error somewhere that costs them a game where those guys would have locked it down. And so I think that's where I take back a little bit of optimism.
I'll say this. I did some kind of a deep dive into baseball after the draft. I was a little disappointed. I was hoping between Bowker and some of those other guys, Sawyer Hawks, that we'd get one of them to stay. That's not going to happen. I do think Levi will wind up back on campus. And I went through the incoming freshman class, who we got back, portal entries, the kid from Georgia that we got, their pitcher. And I saw we have 23 pitchers and 14 position players right now. So that's 37 players. 4 of the position players are catchers, though. So we really only have 10 position players. I think you're correct that we need to add 1 or 2 more there. I'm not sure what the roster size limit thing, if that 34 is this year, or can we still, or will we have to red shirt some guys, gray shirt some guys, how that works. I don't know the rules with that. But right now we're really heavy on pitching. We still have 23 arms if you count Levi Huseman.
Luke, I would a correction. I was doing research on the roster, including guys who didn't play and the commits who weren't maybe draft guys. And they've got right now 16 position players on the roster, including those. And I believe they've got 20 or 21 pitchers. And anybody that got drafted, I've taken off that list. I think the shortstop from NBA, whose name escapes me.
A pitcher, Connor Hamilton.
He's a pitcher.
Oh, he's a pitcher. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think he might get to campus, but we'll see about that. But yeah, I think there's a little bit more there. You got Alki Kia, Will Hampton, Tommy Gooden, all who didn't play last year, and then Corbin Reynolds and Carson Quillen are 2 commits on that side too.
Yeah, I didn't have Tommy Gooden on the roster. I don't know why, but I didn't.
Yeah, I think he's still with them.
A lot of right-handers. I mean, you've got a ton of right-handed pitchers still on the team with Fennell, Guth, Cyber, Nye, Kranzler, Bryan. Ethan Robinson is actually at MTSU. Need to delete him. Hamilton, you mentioned. But the lefties, too. I mean, this pitching staff, guys, you may not have a top-end superstar, but, man, it's going to be deep. I mean, we say that every year. But I mean, it really stands out with this team with Stillman. Chris, they're going to get him through, right?
Yes, he didn't get drafted.
Okay. There's so many players getting drafted. I was making sure. Levi Huseman, that'd be a good ad. Luke, you mentioned that. Miller Green will be back. Any update on Patrick Clemmy? Clemmy will likely get to campus, Chris?
Clemmy was a couple of years ago, right?
Was he?
Or are there two Clemmys?
Yeah, there's another Clemmy. There's another Clemmy.
There's more of them.
Yeah, so Patrick Clemmy, I want to say, is the brother of one of the other Clemmy that was a big-time recruit.
Yeah, I think they lost to Clemmy to the draft a few years ago. Hang on, I'm doing a little bit of research on the fly because I want to go through exactly who is the lefty and who's the righty. I've got some of it written down and some of it not. So you guys carry on, and I'll catch up with you in just a minute.
You know, while Chris is doing that, Billy, I was thinking this too, as far as the rotation goes right now, just throwing a dart at it, I would think the kid from Georgia, Nate Taylor.
Nate Taylor, forgot to mention him, yep.
He's going to be a Sunday starter or at least the weekends, weekdays. And then you've got Austin Nye, I think, Alex Kranzler, and a combination of him and Connor Fennell would be the other two starters.
Yeah, the Nate Taylor kid, he only pitched 8 innings last year with Georgia. But, and Chris, I still need to ask your boy Dasher about him. I saw him down here at Media Days. But he is a kid he's big. You know, I'm not comparing him to Kumar Rocker, but size-wise, he's got that sort of physique. He throws hard. And Scott Brown and this pitching staff, and not to mention, I'm forgetting the other pitching assistant's name that they brought in, who's been really good. Tyler Herb is his name. He's been a really good. I mean, I could see them bringing in Nate Taylor and him taking a step up. He's been pitching really well on the Cape. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Luke.
You know, we talk about guys. Guys were asking about breakthroughs in football. I'm going to make a long-term commitment here. I tell you, somebody's going to make a huge progress is England Bryan on the mound. Yeah. I think he'll either be a close, possibly, or a starter.
All right, lefties and righties. If they get Connor Hamilton to campus, he is a righty. Again, he was picked by the Pirates in round 14. Gosh, where did my sheet go? Hang on a minute.
Tyler Baird, also Wyatt.
Tyler
Nadeau.
Baird is a righty. Nadeau is a guy that was up to 97 in the spring, so he rose pretty quickly. I think that's one.
Nate Schlote and Adria Kosaliba also.
Yeah, and they're righties. The lefties on the staff right now, Miller Green, he did not get drafted. He could have gotten drafted. Matthew Shorey. Jacob Scholes is still on the team, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And Aiden Stillman, lefty from – I think that's one reason they were so aggressive on Stillman. They probably foresaw that we're going to need a lefty, and he's a kid who had a pretty high number. So good for them for being proactive on picking that one off, because he's a really, really great arm. And I think the Nate Taylor pickup guys, nobody seems to know why he didn't pitch more. The only thing that I've gotten is he was a 2-pitch guy. But, man, his numbers between Georgia and the Cape are phenomenal. I think he struck out about a guy and a half per inning between those two. And it's not a huge sample size. He struck out 17 and 8 1/3 innings at Georgia. He struck out 55% of the hitters he faced at Georgia. I don't know why he didn't pitch more. He's had a great Cape. I think, Luke, I think you were dead on. I think that is right now, I would say their rotation might be, unless they get Bowker through the draft unexpectedly, is probably going to be Nye, Kranzler, and him. And Fennell may be going back to that relief role, which is what I would do. But, I mean, he could be a starter too. But I think that's what you're looking at. And Luke England Bryan, I think that's one to circle, because he really flashed some stuff. It's just a little bit unrefined. But you see a lot of guys take a massive step up between year 1 and year 2 on campus. And I think that's a good possibility to watch. All
right, we got another one from C. Perk. If Vandy somehow ends the curse and starts 3-0 this season in football with a win at South Carolina, do you start wondering if there's actually January football on the table? And obviously, that's a quote I forgot to mention that Clark, he said, we believe we can play into January this season. And he also, I mentioned it, one of the last podcasts, that last season they were as close to 2-10 as they are 10-2, and that still carries over this season. So obviously they've talked about it. They believe it. Most people around the country don't. I've said the ceiling is 9-3, or maybe I think it was 8-4. I think I said 8-4. I don't think you got to have more than just that South Carolina win. You know, if you're 3-0 and you're coming off a South Carolina win, I'm not ready to say they can play into January at that point. But South Carolina is going to be good again, so that would be an early sign. The other thing, guys, how long does Pavia stay healthy? We've talked about that. So there's a lot of factors. If you beat South Carolina, that's a really good sign. I'm not ready to say they play into January yet.
I think the best way to put it is if that scenario happens, they're not eliminated from the discussion. It is still a long, long, long shot, but it does keep it in play if they were to surprise.
Look, all goes well. All goes best case scenario. Can this team be in the playoff?
Yes, if all goes well. I mentioned it at the very beginning. I think there's 3 games on the schedule that, for different reasons, not necessarily the 3 best teams we play, that are going to be where we're going to have to play our best, and they're not going to be able to play their best. It would be the Texas, Alabama, and LSU games. I think they're just better than us. Now, if you're telling me we can beat South Carolina,
We lost you there, Luke.
He's back.
Oh,
must have gotten a phone call.
Yeah.
Silent Luke.
Oh, we can't hear you. Dang.
Muted.
He had something good going too.
Hell, now we get up close, Luke, from landscape. Don't think we can hear him.
No.
Luke, speak to us. Hold up 2 fingers if you're being held hostage.
Try to hop out and then hop back in. We'll see if we can get you back in.
Right.
So we'll see if we can get Luke back in here. Okay, this next one, Chris, go ahead and answer this. Anchor 87. What does Pavia's stat line need to look like for us to compete in January? Will he lead the team in rushing again this year?
That's a double-edged sword because you need as many rushing yards from him as you can get, but the more the carries pile up, the less likelihood he is in a good position to help you at season's end. So I would say you might like to see that number go down to maybe 500 because you don't want to take his running out of it. But you want to give that. And the Richardson thing that you said, I think that was a great point a minute ago because maybe he can take some of that rushing yardage on end arounds and give them a couple hundred yards and maybe replace in a different way a little bit of what Diego would do there.
Luke, you back?
Am I?
You are back.
Okay.
I guess we have to answer that now. Yeah.
I'm not sure where I was. Y'all going to have to remind me.
You're in Atlanta. Really long day for you, right?
No doubt.
You were talking about the playoff question. I asked, do you think this team all goes well? Can they play through January?
I was going to say if you're telling me with the South Carolina and Virginia Tech games are both wins, then yes, we have a chance to get to 9. If those 2 are both wins, we have a chance because those are 2 road games. I think Missouri, Kentucky, Auburn, all of those are on the table. I think Tennessee's on the table. I'll be honest, guys, and it's not that I'm just wishing this. I think Tennessee's got some problems just from some friends that I have that's up there. I think they've got some issues, some team chemistry issues.
Around quarterback or other things?
A lot of things.
Interesting. Okay.
And that's one thing Vanderbilt doesn't have. They don't. There's no chemistry issues.
That we know
of. Look, every team has locker room issues and banters and arguments and stuff like that. But there's a line there, Luke. You've seen that, and you've talked about it. The serious. We haven't really seen. We didn't see a ton of that last year. We saw some flare-ups here or there, but that's something they don't have.
Chemistry discussions always crack me up because people always deny that they ever have them. Things are great, even if they seem like they're not. And then after the season, a few months go by. Oh well, our locker room probably wasn't what we needed it to be. Like it's admitted in the aftermath is a reason as to why it didn't go well, but it's never admitted in the present, which I get. You don't want to, no coach wants to stand up there and say, yes, our locker room chemistry sucks, in week 4, but yeah, every time I hear one of those denials of this or that, I'm always like, okay, what else are you going to say?
Well, I'll answer that with a question. Have any of you guys ever been in a room with 105 people and liked every one of them?
No.
Or they all you? No. I mean, all it takes is one of them to start hitting on the other one's girlfriend, and you got a full blow up. Yeah.
Right.
All right, this last one, Luke, we started to answer it. What does Diego's stat line have to look like for them for this team to compete in January? And I can pull up what his stat line was last year. Y'all mentioned, Chris, how many carries did he have?
I think 190 something.
Probably can't look like that. I mean, but maybe does it have to look like that? Does he have to carry the ball 192 times for this team to compete in January?
No, I don't believe.
Well, one thing that does help them is they keep their number of plays down. Which I mean, that also tells you how much he meant to that offense. That I think they ran the lowest number of offensive snaps in the league per game. If they weren't, they were close. And yet he was 3rd in the league at carrying the ball. So
that tells you a lot.
Last year our defense made a jump. I think they were point per game, almost a touchdown better. I think it needs to get 10 points better this year. Another field goal jump. And I think it should. I think we're going to be that much better on defense.
Yeah, his final line last year, 2,293 yards, 20 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And that is through the air. So, you got the rushing stats, 192 carries, and final yardage. It was around 700. I can't find it right now. But either way, I don't think it has to look too much different than that. I mean, 4 interceptions. You can't get much better than that.
Yeah, that's one thing. If you wanted to throw a little bit of a dose of cold water on things, the turnover number last year in terms of what they gave it up, like that's going to go up because that was just incredible how much they hung onto the ball. Now, they might need to make it up by forcing some more on defense, but that was remarkable. That's hard to repeat. Yeah. I think they were number 1 in the country at fewest turnovers, were they not?
Well, we were +9 in turnovers.
Right, which means the defense wasn't giving them much in that area.
Yeah. I think we only had 6 turnovers, didn't we?
Yeah, which 7. I mean, I guess on the other side, the defense could force more than it did to sort of even that out.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Their scoring defense, probably, like you said, Luke, that needs to improve. You're not always going to get a Fontenette pick 6 in there, but those moments where you need it, you're going to have your defense come up with some scores or at least put you in the red zone. That's what those James Franklin teams did so well, guys. You look at a lot of those games, their defense scored or they led to scores with a pick 6, a sack fumble, and that's what this Clarkley team did a lot last year too. So I'm with you, Luke. The scoring defense has to continue.
What's your over/under on Seabrooks getting 1 interception?
Oh man, I mean he got one last year.
Yeah, I know.
He had one last year, but that was such a.
I'll take the under.
I mean, that didn't come close to happening again all season, and you've got to give a lot of the credit to Longwell with the perfect tip. But I'll go. Yeah. I'll go under.
Go under.
That's almost like turning a triple play. It's probably more luck and circumstance than it is skill. So,
but guys, that was the microcosm of their season. That Seabrooks interception.
It was.
They came up big in the right spot.
Yes,
and they just did. I mean, you can't, but you got to credit that to Pavia, to Kill, to Beck, and the new coaches and players that did come in. Guys, that's all we got. I got to run. I don't know if y'all want to stay on a little bit longer. That's all the mailbag questions we got, but I'll leave it for y'all with any parting thoughts.
No, I've got to run as well. So unless Luke's got something, I think we're done.
No, I'm just going to go out, spend a little time in Hotlanta.
Have fun.
Go. All right, take it easy, guys.
Luke, are you down there for media days, or are you just down there to
No,
hang out?
actually, it's odd. I'm staying right across from the stadium, so it's been like torture because I didn't get to go to the All-Star game. But my wife has market down here. She owns her own business.
That's what I thought.
We're here for market.
Yep.
There you go. All right, have a good one, guys.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
That is another episode of the Vandy 247 podcast. I want to tell you guys real quick about a few of our sponsors. Of course, I do want to mention Joe Bulovas, former Vanderbilt kicker, huge part of our coverage with football season. We're going to be hopping on a podcast at some point next week to talk a little bit about the season, some of the quotes he heard during media days, and talk more about our partnership moving forward. But also, I want to tell you about how you can continue to support Vandy247.com. Give the podcast a review and a 5-star rating. That helps us get noticed. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. This is the time to. Fall camp scoops, Robbie scoops coming. That's where you want to be. The Vandy247 message board. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like this video. Fire away your comments and questions during all of our live videos. All that is free to do. And finally, if you're interested in sponsoring the show like a Joe Bulovas, email Chris Lee, chrislee70@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you again soon with more episodes of the Vandy 247 podcast.